Daddy a little break. And so I'll take them to Walmart. We'll buy a little something, drop $40. Be going out to the parking lot. I'm getting ready to bask in their appreciation, Finally, they can say thank you instead of always may I and please may I have. And so, thank you, Daddy. I love you, Daddy, all that stuff. And the thank yous last about till we get to the car to go home. And then it's like, the next one in the line we need? Don't! It just frustrates me because it never stops. The constant ask of little children is an oppressive thing. You know what I'm saying. Who's relating to this? Am I in trouble? Am I a good dad anyway? All right. But I think maybe they're on to something though. I think Bart and Lisa and my kids and some of y'all's little kids, I think you guys, they're on to something, man. Little kids know how to persist. And we're talking about prayer today. We're talking about changing the world through prayer. And if you study about prayer in here, you'll find that one of the common elements that the Lord always encourages us when we're going to pray is to persist in prayer. Always pray, never give up. Never stop praying. Jesus says things like, keep on asking, and it will be given to you. Keep on knocking, and the door will be open. Keep on seeking, and you'll find. Always pray, never give up. Paul talks about how he always prays for all his churches all the time, night and day. You can read in the Old Testament, there's stories of like Hannah and how she prayed continually because she couldn't have a baby. But she kept praying and kept seeking and kept praying and kept praying. She kept persisting, and finally she got the result that she was looking for. Now that's all fine and good, but it leaves me with a little problem. Now I don't know if I'm not spiritual or what it is, but I just personally, as a man, as a person, I don't like to continually persist in things where I don't get the results I'm looking for. Anything that I go about doing in my life, spiritual or whatever it is, physical, anything like that, I got to see measurable results through reasonable labor in a reasonable period of time, or else my temptation is to quit. Y'all with me? Anybody like me? Okay, women are like that too. Men and women, we're the same. Who likes to think that they're beating their head against the wall and expecting some kind of result? And, a lot of y'all don't know me real well, so I'm just going to be honest with you, and we're going to trust each other this morning. Sometimes my prayer life is like that. My prayer life says, sometimes I'm praying a lot, praying consistently, sticking with it, and I'm seeing results. And then I can point to other times, lots of other times where my prayer life's kind of down here. I don't pray that much. I kind of throw them up every now and again. Usually, I pray to God daily, but, there's a difference between praying to God and just sort of acknowledging Him as you go about your business, I try to spend a little time every day. We're actually sort of required to here as a staff, But, there are times in my prayer life where I'm down here. Well, what happened from up here to down here? Well, usually for me, I didn't get an answer I was looking for. And I get disappointed. And I get discouraged. I don't get the results. I don't want to do it. Now, it's strange that we could go like this. Does anybody else ride the prayer roller coaster at all? How about some of us out here? How about dads? Let's take husbands and dads for a second. Let's say you're praying for that job, that one particular job, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, you do that better than any man on earth. You're the man for the job, and you pray and you seek God, and your heart is pure to care for your family, and for whatever reason, that other dude got the job. Or what about moms, the best prayers in the world? Most consistent, persistent prayers in the world are moms praying for their kids. Some of you with older kids in here. You ever experienced this where you pray as a mom with a pure heart, seeking God that He would take care of your kid, don't let them get off on the wrong path, raise them up so that they walk with Jesus instead of walking away, and they went ahead and made stupid decisions anyway. Or you prayed for their protection and they went off and did dumb things anyway. What about, as a young person? As a young person, I remember specifically praying for this certain girl. I can't even remember her name now, but at the time, she was the whole world, to go to homecoming with me. Do they have homecoming here? Okay. All right. So there was this one girl I wanted to go to homecoming with, and I prayed, and I sought God, and I looked, and I searched. I really sought him. I asked. And she wouldn't give me the time of day. I had to go with my brother's girlfriend. That's kind of like going with your cousin or something. It's just humiliating, you know. And it was just awful. But see, we ask. I don't want to say we don't get what we ask for, but yeah, kind of. Is anybody with me on that, or am I really making you angry? Can you believe? I believe God is faithful, but sometimes it just seems like he doesn't come through. Is anybody with me? Okay, he just says no. No, right? Well, I hate that. I hate that. Because this Bible that I believe and hold to with all my heart tells me I'm supposed to keep praying, but then I'm not going to get the results I want. It ain't going to happen for me. Now, let me ask you something, because I know people who pray. One of them is my wife. She's sitting right here. Right? I know people who pray and stuff just happens. We got those prayer letters in the mail from K2 about 6 months ago. We did a series on the Lord's Prayer. Y'all remember that? And we did Give Us This Day, and we all wrote down our prayer requests. We got them back this week. Whoever did that, you the bomb. That's awesome. We got them back. I opened up my envelope of my 5 prayer requests that I had prayed for. I'm not going to say I prayed for them for 6 months, but I did pray. You know how many I got? Boo! My wife had written 10 down. She got 5 out of 10, and she was discouraged. And then the next day, she went and searched out all her other prayer journals and places where she'd written her prayer requests down, and one thing after another, and she was all excited the next day, just kind of rubbing my nose in it. Well, it felt like it anyway, you know, because God was just coming through. Now, that's what I don't understand. And this is what I got to know about prayer, because if prayer is supposed to change the world, I got to know, is God looking for us a certain kind of prayer? Some people pray, they get it what they need a lot. Others pray, they get 0 out of 5. Did I do something wrong? I mean, I know my wife is a wonderful woman, but, you know, I'm a pretty nice guy. I do all right. Is God looking, this is a really scary thought, is God looking for a certain kind of prayer? Does he prefer my wife over me? I don't know if I can live with that. Is there a trick? Is there a certain formula or a way of praying where I can not only get my request answered, but I can enjoy my prayer life more? Any of you in here like me? You go to pray and it just feels like those things are just bouncing off the ceiling sometimes. And you walk away going, did I just waste my time? What is prayer for? If I don't feel like it's exciting, or maybe I don't always know how to pray, or I feel like it's boring, or I'm easily distracted, am I wasting my time? Is prayer just some kind of tool for an odd comfort? Because I prefer to watch a movie if I need a little comfort. If I need a little peace, I prefer sit me down in front of a man movie and leave me alone for a couple hours. I'll be a better man for it. But this says keep praying. So what's the trick? There's got to be a trick to it. I mean, is God like, you know, maybe like the Pillsbury Doughboy or something? If you just tickle him just right, does he go, woohoo, and give you what you want? Give you a cookie? What? I don't get it. How can we go about praying in such a way that we not only are getting what we need, getting what we ask for, but it's more fun? It's not just a religious exercise. It's something alive. It's something vibrant. It's something I want to do instead of have to do. Well, fortunately for us, Jesus did not leave us without advice on this. And if you brought your Bibles, if you look in Matthew chapter 6, we're going to continue on where we have been studying. Jesus is giving one of his most famous talks, the Sermon on the Mount. And he tells us, the people that are listening, he tells them this, and I had this printed out in the New Living Translation. He said, this is Jesus talking. He says, and now about prayer. I'm getting ready to give you some advice. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see them. I assure you, that is all the reward they will ever get. But when you pray, see, I love that. In another version of the scripture, it says, but you, when you pray. So Jesus is kind of like pointing the finger at his people now. It's kind of like how we are with our kids sometimes. Those of you who have kids, your kid gets in trouble. He comes to you, he says, but Dawson did the same thing. And you say, well, I'm not talking to Dawson, I'm talking to you. So here's Jesus, he's kind of saying, I'm not talking to them, the hypocrites, the actors, as we learned last week. I'm not talking to the actors. Now I'm talking to you, my people, my world-changing people. If you're going to change the world, when you pray, don't be like them. Go away by yourself. Shut the door behind you and pray to your Father secretly. Then your Father, this is a scary verse, who knows all secrets, will reward you. When you pray, don't babble on and on as people of other religions do. They think their prayers are answered only by repeating their words again and again. Don't be like them, because your Father knows exactly what you need even before you ask him. Now, as I read this passage, I still got the same question in my head. Is there a certain kind of prayer God is looking for so that I can have a more rewarding prayer life and I can get answers? And I think it's in here. As I read this, I really believe there's a certain kind of prayer he's looking for. Now, as Jesus does so many times, he tells us what not to do first. In verse 5 it says, and now about prayer, when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see. Now you got to get the picture here. Back then it wasn't like it is today. Back then he's talking to Jewish people of the Jewish faith, the leaders. And he says, don't be like them, because in the Jewish faith back then, they had 3 specific times of day they had to go pray. It was like 9 o'clock and noon and 3 o'clock. And so what these leaders would do, this is just diabolical here. What they would do is they would plot out their journey. Let's say they had a to-do list that day, a honey-do list, and one was to go to like, Issachar's lamb and loin shop and buy like a pound of lamb for the missus or something. So they think in their head, okay, so Issachar's lamb and loin shop is at the corner of like Levi and Malachi, right? Okay, Levi and Malachi is such and such a distance away. But you know what? If I take a certain route, I can get there by the busiest roads, the widest roads, and I can arrive at the corner of the widest roads where most of the people would be. And notice, they can arrive at a corner. So there's a road going here, traffic going to and fro. A road going here, traffic going to and fro. If you're standing right here, you get 2 ways traffic, more people. And so they would plot it out and say, okay, it takes me 4 or 5 minutes to go such and such a distance. And then Issachar's lamb and loin is such and such a distance, so I'll plot it out. I'll leave at such and such a time so I can arrive at the corner of Levi and Malachi, and it'll be prayer time. So here they go. They're on their journey. They're watching the sun. 2:58, 2:59, 3 o'clock, I'm here. Time to pray. And they make a big noise. Oh, I've got to pray. It was never the intent, but that's the way they did it. It's time to pray because I'm a good spiritual man, so now I kneel and I pray, or I stand and I pray. Oh, most holy of gods, with the wrathfulness and the vengeance and the hey. And they start. And Jesus is saying, don't be like them. Now, I got a question. That was way back then. We don't do that kind of thing, do we? Because if we go out there and I see somebody praying out on the corner real loud, I think one of a couple things. They've had a couple of drinks, or they're touched in the head somehow. And I don't think of them as religious people. And we don't do that. We don't go out, because Jesus is not saying here, don't pray in public, because if he is, K2 is in big trouble because we pray in public every week. And he's not even saying don't pray to encourage people or for the people around you. Because I could show you a verse in here, and I won't, where he's praying, and he says to God, I'm not praying this for myself. I'm praying this for my brothers here to encourage them. So what's he saying? It seems like he's in a situation where he's confronting a culture where they're all about the people around them. Their exercise is about the people. It's kind of a we game with them. They go on the corner and we're here. We're praying. We're proud. It's a we kind of I call it we prayer. It's a we prayer. And Jesus is saying, don't do we prayer. I have a buddy, actually, Shannon and I, we met this couple shortly after we moved here. They're a great couple. They got a couple of kids, and their kids love our kids, and we love them, and they love us. So 2 New Year's Eves ago, I think it was 2, we invited them over to spend New Year's Eve with us. And this isn't as weird as it sounds, but we were having like a slumber party, okay? Y'all just got to trust me, all right? I know you don't know me, but relax, all right? So it was fun, man. We put on our pajamas. We sent the kids upstairs. And so here's 4 grown adults in their pajamas downstairs, kicking back. And my buddy, he brought a Wii game over. How many in here got a Wii? Raise your hand. Okay, you cheer. But when I first saw this game, I just really wasn't that impressed. You know, because the graphics, my PS2's got better graphics in a lot of cases, you know. And so when he said he's bringing his Wii over and said it was so much fun, I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. But we each had one of these controllers, right? So we're playing the sports games in Wii. There's like baseball and bowling and all this stuff. And so we're playing. And he was right. It was fun, man. This is my first time playing, and I'm going for it. And we were having a good time. And if you look, see the people that market the Wii, geniuses. Geniuses. Because what do they call it? The we. What are they tapping into there? They're tapping into the ache that all of us have for community. See, this is, if you look at the advertising and stuff for the Wii, you never see a lone, overweight child eating potato chips, playing the Wii, sitting on the couch. You never see that. It's always 3 or 4 people sitting in a room, they're like, and they're having the time of their life. Ha, 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 ha. And so it's we're together. And it's also we. And so me and my buddy Scott and his wife and my wife, we're having a great time. But there's a dark side to the we. The we has a very, very sinister, dark thing. And it doesn't show up and creeps up on you later. See, because my buddy and we were playing this bowling game, right? So I'm watching him. I've never played before, So I promise you, before God, I was doing exactly what he was doing. I watched him. I patterned myself. He would do it, strike. I would do it, gutter. He would do it, strike. I would do it, 3 pins fall. Then he started messing with me. And see, that gets irritating when people do that, and he started, And I'd be like, 3, 2, 1, got killed. Now, look, I'm a musician. I'm not a sports guy, but doggone it, this is video game sports. I should be able to do some of this. But he just stomped me in the ground. And the darkness crept in. See, the dark side of because it gets very competitive. You start even maybe resenting people that are better than you. And see, that's what these guys were doing. It became a competitive thing. When they went to pray, this is we prayer. We're here, and I'm praying better than you. No, we don't do that, do we? You know, one time, and I'm going to confess, so everybody just breathe and trust me, all right? One time I got invited on this missions trip to the Ukraine, and this guy brought me in. They bought me a ticket. It was crazy. Spent a lot of money, and they brought me in to speak and to play and all this stuff. And we went around to all these churches, and I was so scared because I was in the Ukraine. I didn't know the language. The areas we were in were kind of rough, and I'm sort of a nice suburban, clean kind of guy, you know, keep things clean and safe and surrounded with police. And this was a really sort of edgy kind of, and I started to feel like, man, water's above my head. I'm in some real trouble here. And so they gave me a room to pray in, and so, not to pray in, to stay in, but I used it to pray in because I was desperate. And so I'm down by my bed, and I'm praying, and I'm sort of in agony because I'm scared, and I don't know what's going to happen, and all this stuff. And then I'm praying to God, and it's me and God, and then all of a sudden I hear like footsteps outside the door. They're up, they're walking around, they're cooking, they're doing, and I kid you not, man, my voice raised just a little bit. My inflection changed just a little bit because in my heart, somewhere in some deep, dark place, I wanted them to know that they'd gotten the right guy for the job. He was a real prayer. He sought God and depended on God. He's a real spiritual guy. And it worked. It worked. Jesus said, they have their reward in full. You do we praying, there is a reward. It worked because the next day he said to me, boy, sounded like you were really having a party last night. I said, well, I really was, you know. But what Jesus is saying is if you want to pray in such a way as to have more success in your prayer life, it's not about the people around you. It's not about what the person next to you thinks. It's not even about what people you love think. Sometimes I pray and hope that my wife I'll pray in bed beside her or whatever, I hope she'll wake up. Sometimes, because I want her to know she didn't make a horrible, awful mistake by marrying me, you know. But it's not even about her, much as I love her. It's not about our kids. How many got kids in here and want their kids to grow up praying? That'd be me. Okay. Let's teach them to pray. But this time when we pray to God, it's about us and Him, not about them. So there's the we. I like the we. But you know what I like more? There's a piece of technology that I just think is the greatest thing. It's the I stuff. Raise your hand if you got an iPod, iPhone, iTouch, something like that. All right, lots of people, because this is the best stuff ever. My buddy just bought me an iPod Touch for my birthday. My life has changed. Things were bad now they're great. I mean, it's the best thing. I didn't bring it because I didn't want to defile it at all, right? I want to keep it to myself. But see, those people, as sharp as the we people are that are selling us the people that are selling us the I stuff are twice as sharp. Because they're tricking us now, they're tapping into basic human selfishness. Look at the name, iPod. It's an iTouch. My iTouch, it's got a little, this is so funny, it's got a little slider on there, right? And it says, slide to unlock. So I'm thinking, when I first got them, is there a fingerprint or something? Is it catching my fingerprint? Because it's mine and it's mine. Can I slide it and unlock? Oh, no. Anybody could slide it and unlock it. You could anybody. But it tricks you. It's trying to all the time communicate it. This is yours. This is about me. It's I. It's an I touch. You can't touch. I touch. Right? This isn't your pod, this is iPod. Well, Jesus is talking about a kind of prayer that's kind of like that in this same passage. In verse 7 it says, when you pray, don't babble on and on as people of other religions do. They think their prayers are answered only by repeating their words again and again. Don't be like them, because your Father knows exactly what you need even before you ask Him. Now you kind of got to read between the lines here. And again, you got to look back to who He was talking to, because back then, if you weren't Jewish, more than likely you believed in a whole lot of gods. In fact, it got pretty crazy. There was like probably a god of the grass, and a god of the sky, and a god of the water, and a god of household implements. And so if you were a person who believed like this back then, and you had to go get water from the well, you'd take your bucket, and you'd start to pray. Oh, Jimmy, God of the bucket. Bless me, oh, most holy Jimmy, with a successful water trip. And you walk across the grass. Oh, Steve, God of the grass. And see, the thing about it is that their gods, they viewed them like they were busy. Their gods could be irritated, easily irritated. Their gods didn't put the concerns of their people first. They had personal interests, their own interests that they were more interested in. And so the trick was, if you believe this kind of way, was to, in essence, manipulate these gods into paying you attention, and then they would give you what you want. So you'd start, they had different names for them. And if they were eloquent enough, and if they were sharp enough in the way they called on their gods would be like, I don't know, out on a date or something. And then they'd hear this beautiful, eloquent phrase, oh, Steve, God of the grass. Oh, great green one. Oh, mighty Stephen, God of the blade of grass. And and they get their attention, and then they'd give them what they needed, a safe trip to the well. And Jesus is saying, hey, don't babble on like them, saying those different names over and over. What's He really saying? What's He saying to you and me? Because nobody in here believes like that, I don't think. What's He saying? Don't try to manipulate your God. See, you know what's tricky about being a Jesus chaser, a Jesus follower? Our God is it. He's, according to our belief, He rules everything. The grass, the water, the bucket, the hand that carries the bucket, the river where the water came from. He owns it all. And He can't be manipulated. He can't be impressed. Have you ever caught yourself? Because I have. Have you ever caught yourself in your personal prayer life? Have you ever caught yourself trying to impress God? It's ever so subtle. And it's so dangerous and so dark at the same time. I'll impress Him. My flowery words. I call that I prayer. There's we prayer and there's I prayer. In I prayer, we also, how many are like me? Sometimes when you go to pray, you got a list of requests as long as your arm. And they're weighing heavy on you. And so you go in to pray and you just, me, I, gimme, feed me, see more. Right? Gimme. But see, you know what's different about the God that we chase around, a lot of us in here? He's got an agenda. He has some things He would like to accomplish. See, your prayer time with Him is personal to Him. It's person to person. It's not about Him just giving us what we need, think we need, and what we want. He wants to use us in prayer to accomplish what He wants to do. He's got a plan. He's got some people He wants to help. He's got some things that touch his heart and that he loves, and he's got some things that he doesn't love. Now, I don't know about you, but one of my biggest temptations when I go to pray to this God is to forget that I should be just as interested in his agenda as I am in my own when I pray. So that's I prayer. There's we prayer and there's I prayer. But there's a kind of prayer then that changes the world. There's a kind of prayer that we should be involved in. And Jesus again teaches about it, but it's kind of subtle. You got to read between the lines. Verse 6 of that same passage, Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. But when you pray, go away by yourself. Shut the door behind you and pray to your Father secretly. Then your Father who knows all secrets will reward you. Now you got to read between the lines there. There's something there, especially when you look at the word secret. Think of the relationships in your life, people. There's people you have a certain level of relationship with, you share some things with, and you keep some things hidden. Then there's other people you share more with, and you might just hide one or two things. You share your secrets. I'm married, so I share my secrets with my wife. My wife knows my secrets because we have that kind of relationship that allows for that. Now, if I went to my buddy Mark DeMeglio, although he's my friend, my good friend, and I shared some stuff that my wife knows, he'd probably run, right? Or tell on me or something. See, this kind of prayer is what I like to call us prayer. Us prayer, that's the stuff God's looking for. To whatever level I'm dissatisfied in my prayer life, either with no answers coming or not enough answers coming, or it's dry and it's boring and it's frustrating, to whatever level that is going on, it's because I'm not engaging in us prayer. Now, what is us prayer? Us prayer assumes that when I go to God and I pray, it is a two-way street. He shares his secrets, and I share mine. He has his agenda, and I have mine. And wherever those match, I get my answer. He has things that he's concerned about, and I have mine. I give him my time, and he gives me his. I give him gut-level honesty, and he gives the same to me. I hide nothing from him, and he hides nothing from me, to the level that I can stand it as just a dude. Us prayer assumes an intimacy. Us prayer is about a relationship. Us prayer is a whole lot more fun. Now, this is an interesting thing about us prayer. It's scary. It's scary. I could show you a passage in here where Moses, who God called his friend, how'd you like that title? I'm a friend of God. He's my friend. God calls Moses his friend. Moses is having a hard time. God sends Moses to save these people. Everything goes to junk. Stuff's going bad right out of the gate. Moses gets angry. He goes back to God. You're letting me down. You're letting me down. Now, see, we might call that a sin, accusing God of wrongdoing. But Moses was an us prayer. He knew it was gut-level honesty. You hide nothing back. You tell him your feelings, and he can take it. I don't know, when's the last time we prayed like that? Some of you are good at that. It scares me a little bit. I want to keep my distance a little bit Because if I start to engage God gut to gut in prayer, holding nothing back, talking about what's important to me, and allowing Him, if you'll allow me to say this, to speak about what's important to Him, I start to engage God that way, it gets pretty scary. You have to make yourself vulnerable. You have to trust Him. Tricky part, though. Us prayer, rather than we prayer or I prayer, as I believe it, is the only prayer that changes anything. This is about change your world. Well, I'll be honest with you. It's hard for me to think about changing the world when I need to change my wallet. Now, I could go to God with a list of things about my checking account or whatever. But I'm an us prayer. At least I try to be. So I assume there's a two-way street. And I go to God bare bones honest. Us prayer is continual. It's so interesting. You know, sometimes my wife and I will sit down and we'll watch a movie or something. And you know, if you really know somebody, if you're an us, you don't always got to say stuff. You know, when we first went out, it was, okay, I'm thinking in my head, I'm calculating as I'm trying to charm her. You know, what can I ask her next? What can I do? What do I say? Right? Now, we're married. So we sit. And I mean that in a good way, y'all. Single people don't get scared. It's a beautiful thing, all right? We sit. Then she says something. What do you want to eat? Pizza sounds good. What kind do you want? Pepperoni. Get in there and make it, woman. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally joking. I make pizza too. All right, but the beauty about being in us is not that I send her off to make pizza. The beauty about she and I being in us is that silence is just as comfortable. It's just as comfortable. Now, wouldn't that be cool if we had that kind of relationship with God, where we go to God and even though we've got concerns, we just sit. We're silent. Maybe God has something to say. I think that's the kind of prayer that changes the world. But then I think about all those things I have. Maybe you're thinking about all the problems you have. You need God. You need to get God in on. You need a job. We need to keep our kids on track. These things are heavy. Change the world, change my kids. Maybe you're sitting there with a wife or a husband. Change the world, change this idiot sitting next to me. You know? Will this kind of praying help me get my requests? Will us praying help me get the answers I need? I don't know. I think so. But I know this. Whenever I engage in us prayer, I know God better by the time I say amen. And to know Jesus is to look more like Jesus. And to look like Jesus is to change the world. Some time ago, and I promised myself I would never share these kind of stories from the platform again, but I had to do it recently, and I got to do it again today. Sorry. Just some of y'all don't know me. Just hang with me. My father passed away from cancer pretty young, too young in life, and it was really difficult for my family to bear up under. My sister, my brother, and I, my mother. And, you know, a year went by, and I was just kind of weighted down with just grief. I couldn't take it. And so I'm having coffee with my sister one day. My sister's been walking with Jesus for a long time, and she says to me, you know what? I believe God gave me a dream last night. I said, she starts to tell me about it. In my dream, it was like it was heaven, and I saw Dad. Now, my father was a very unhealthy weight, but she saw him skinny. thin, healthy. My father was kind of one of these middle management guys. He tried several businesses and he failed, and we were never rich or anything like that, but he always had ambition, but he never was successful like he wanted to be. And my sister saw him in her dream, she saw him successful. It was like he was there with God. She didn't see God or anything, but it was like he was there with him. And God was giving him instructions, and he was carrying them out, and he was doing great.